Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone for a special treat. Today we have a member of our XRP Army community, Jay Chiew. Did I say that correctly, Jay?
Hey, that's correct, Scott.
Okay, and he is with Crypto Market Structure, and he's got a great silver trading background and metal trading background to be able to bring his expertise to the XRP community. And that's one of the reasons that I wanted to be able to have a friendly crypto discussion with Jay. So, Jay, would you like to introduce yourself to everyone?
Yeah, hey, this is Jay here, and I run the cryptomarketstructure.com, which essentially is about helping investors solve two problems. One is knowing where we are and where we should exit, and what are the good coins to hold. Yeah, pretty simple.
Fantastic. And so, Jay, how long did you spend in the metals industry before you found crypto?
Yeah, I come from traditional investing, which is in the world of foreign exchange, gold and silver. So especially the world of Forex, I've been in that for more than 10, 15 years now. Basically, I'm a technical trader. I look at charts and look at the patterns and structures. The same thing I applied in gold and silver. So quite a number of years. And when I study and invested in silver for the last 5 years, and when I look at crypto, suddenly I realized the crypto structures, the market structures, and the price structures are really similar. And as such, it gave me a lot of confidence to come in and invest in crypto. And the more I learn about the opportunity in crypto, the more I realize the traditional investment in the world of stocks, forex, and metals. They don't compare against the crypto because crypto can go up to 5, 10, 30 times, 100 times. Whereas in silver, when I tell some of my investors, I say, hey, look, silver can go up 2, 3 times, and we are really excited just looking at 3x, 2x, and that's a lot of money in the traditional world. But in crypto world, it's that's nothing. 2 to 3x is nothing. And the more you think about that, the more you realize why am I still invested in silver or other forms. So I still have some money in the traditional market, but majority of my money is now invested in crypto because the bull run obviously is starting soon. And that's sort of my background and how I shifted into crypto. But also there's a huge factor that triggers my change in investment, which is China, right? China, like I said before, late last year, which is in 2019, November, December, they announced that blockchain is a strategic initiative for the country. So if the big players, including China, is coming into the stage, into the game, I think investors are all now coming into this platform. And of course, this year is a great year of adoption, and this bull cycle will be fairly huge. Yeah.
Well, and so, Jay, based on your experience in these traditional markets, do you see that other traditional investors are kind of seeing it the same way that you are?
Yeah, I think it's a slow game, unfortunately, for investors, especially from the traditional market, to come in. I was speaking to another investor the other day, and I was asking him and said, "Hey, do you want to guess my age?" And he was thinking, maybe about early 40s. I say, okay, fairly close. And he said, what's the point? I say, my point is people at my age normally don't, we are not tech savvy, not necessarily that tech savvy to understand, especially crypto. So it's like my father. My father still reads newspaper, right? He doesn't really know how to operate a computer. So if you try to explain crypto to him, he wouldn't understand. And that's why, like in US now, you have a lot of issue with the regulators trying to provide clarity on that space. And these are typically much more older people, so-called. And for them to get what crypto is trying to do is quite hard. So as such, there's it's fairly slow for the regulators to come in. And the people who has money in general, they are older, and these older generations don't necessarily appreciate crypto because they are not necessarily into technology. I mean, if you look at Warren Buffett, for example, it's a classic case, right? Where for him, he called Bitcoin, red poison. So a lot of these generations of people, they don't really get it, and it's going to be slow. But I do think, obviously, once the regulations, the clarity in that space starts coming in, and the big institutions starts coming in, the adoption will be fairly accelerated. So that's my view. I think it's just going to be slower, but once the institutions and adoption starts kicking in, it'll be a steep curve of adoption. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of see it that way too. Trickle, 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 and then all of a sudden the floodgates are going to open up. And I believe that the regulatory clarity is one of the things that everybody's waiting on. I know
Right.
for me that my parents, I won't name the bank, but they have had a traditional bank taking care of their portfolio for generations in our family.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been very slow to recommend anything to do with crypto at all. And I know why. It's because the broker is not had anything that he could make any commissions off of. So
Right.
now that Brian Brooks has said you can custody it, I believe as soon as this guy can make some money off of
Mm-hmm.
recommending crypto to my parents, then all of a sudden we're going to see a portfolio shift.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Completely agree with you on that one. Like in Australia, the post office, will be allowing Bitcoin transaction. The Australian post office, it's going to do that. And once that kind of thing happen, which is obviously, imagine the world, the 7-Eleven is selling Bitcoin as well, which is probably going to happen. Everyone wants a piece of it because that's where you can make commission and money. And a lot of the other thing is I do see a lot of traditional exchange or broker will see this as a great opportunity. And one of the things that a friend of mine spoke about, and he works in a traditional broker. He said, if you look at the company today, right, the traditional broker, they are making money about 5.5 days, the traditional brokers. But Bitcoin and the crypto market is 7 days, 24/7, 365 days. Imagine you have another opportunity of another 1.5 days to make more money, right? Because crypto operates nonstop. It will increase their revenue. That's just a no-brainer. So the traditional boys or the exchange is definitely looking at it. They know they want to expand their revenue. So crypto is a new asset class, not just a new asset class. It trades 24/7, and it's just going to allow them to make so much more money. So they will come definitely, for sure. Yeah.
Well, and Jay, specifically two areas that I wanted you to cover. since I'm in the United States and you're in Australia, I know what the regulatory climate is here in the United States, which is, it seems like that we're taking our sweet time. But
Yeah.
what is the regulatory climate in Australia for crypto like? And then the second thing that I wanted to know from you specifically is that when you discovered Ripple and XRP, how did that capture your attention, and how strongly do you feel about Ripple and XRP being one of the players in the crypto world that is going to be one of the winners?
Yeah, good question. On the regulatory side, the Australian government, I think, is fairly straightforward, right? So we have access to most of the exchange today. So, for example, I do have an account with Binance and a local exchange. So we do have quite a few local exchanges in Australia. So for them as in for the government here, it's not a big deal. They'll just treat these exchanges as just, another broker. So it's fairly simple in how I think the Australian government looks at it. Tax-wise is also fairly straightforward based on what my accountant told me. And so everything seemed to be fairly straightforward now. There isn't, complexity around establishing, hey, is XRP a security or is it a commodity? How should we distinguish XRP or any other crypto asset? I think the US regulators are far more, and I understand the situation in US is far more complex, where you have a lot of other parties, regulatory parties to be involved. Whereas in Australia, I don't think they look at, there are so many parties involved here. So in a way, the climate here is simpler compared to the US. So as such, I'm actually quite surprised, being in Australia. We have it really good. We don't have restrictions such as, in US, you can't have Binance, you can engage with Binance.com, but you can do Binance US. But not all the states can get access to Binance US, which is quite interesting. So it's fairly complicated, I think, in US, whereas in Australia, it's straightforward from that point of view. Both now, in terms of the taxation, I think a lot of the new tax accountants in Australia would love to see more clarity there. And they would love to work closer to the government to understand that. But I think that's just some of the details that they will work out, just because some of these tax accountants wants to position themselves as being specialized in crypto. So for those of you out there who looks at this as a niche, it's actually fairly good. If you claim yourself to be, hey, I specialize in crypto, in tax accounting, people do want to speak to you because they are concerned. Investors like me are always concerned to deal with traditional tax accountants who may not know how to deal with it. So on that ground, I think there's still some work that I hear some of the accountants are engaging with the Australian Tax Office, the ATO, to get more clarity. But overall, on a larger picture, it's pretty smooth sailing. We have, you can engage your, we call it super over here in Australia, but I think it is equivalent to 401k or IRA. That's something that you guys call in US, where you can invest on your own. So Australia pretty much had that going. And as such, I do think more and more people are looking at it, and so it's good in that regards. In terms of Ripple XRP, I personally like it from a couple of angles. So I'll share with you as well as the audience to think about this. There's a lot of criticism on XRP, Ripple especially being XRP as a centralized, it's more of a centralized coin. I think a lot of those things are just people talking about, they in any system or coins that you deal with, there is both centralization and decentralization. There's both aspects of it. People who says Bitcoin or some other coin is decentralized and XRP is not. I don't think they understand what they're talking about. Every coin is centralized to a certain degree. So to claim that a coin is decentralized is just, I think they don't understand the concept of a system theory. So in every system you look at, there's always a weakest link, and there's always a centralization to a certain degree. And people need to understand centralization is not entirely that bad. You need to have some level of centralization or leadership, right? If not, if you have completely decentralized and no one's taking leadership to develop the coin, for example, in Bitcoin, well, we are dealing with technology here. And, if you're not going to develop the technology, it's going to be outpaced and it's going to be obsolete, right? So that's why until today, I still don't invest in Bitcoin. I've never held Bitcoin yet, right? And XRP remains to be one of my biggest holding. So centralization and leadership is quite important, and that's why you look at the team behind that develops it, right? And if you look at the CEO and the CTO, right, they are very clear, and that's why I look at them as a very strong team coming, from a business consulting. We always tell people, if you can solve a problem really well, you build a stronghold, and that's an important thing to do. And that's why when the team set out to solve, they only solve the cross-border payment. That's their only focus. I really like that because that's how strong companies or strong organization is built. For example, if you look at Google, they started with search, right? If you look at Amazon, they started with books. Now, eventually, Amazon would proliferate, and right now, today, they sell everything, right? The same, Google is not just search, right? They're doing all sorts of things now, including providing cloud service, providing email service, providing pretty much everything, right, that you have on your phone. So, but how a company starts, it's always building a stronghold. And XRP having a stronghold in payment is a great start. And now they are moving into smart contracts, right? Using Flare, that's coming up. So that's good, right? So you can see that they're moving out and expanding horizontally. And those strategic thinking on how you develop, how a company needs to evolve is really crucial as part of a business. And for me, if you do not have that clarity in how one strategize, right? So for example, I ask people, well, what's Bitcoin going to be in the next 5 years, right? People say, well, it's the same thing, right? Bitcoin will remain to be the same. Well, for me, if it's the same, then I'm not interested, right? It's like saying you're holding the same phone the next 5 years. Well, why should you be holding the same for the next 5 years? And that's how I think about it. I think that a coin needs to be well designed, and I understand you can build Lego pieces on top of it or on the side of it, but I really love to see development, teams that are pushing ahead. So for me, that's a really strong thing that Ripple has. The other thing is, what's the name of the CTO? Is it David Schwartz? Scott?
Yes, David Schwartz.
Yeah, David Schwartz, right? I mean, if you listen to what he in my opinion, there are a couple of geniuses in this space, and he's one of them, right? He basically took the internet architecture and applied in payments. Why take the internet framework and architecture and apply in payments? Because it works. Internet works, right? So, and David knows that really well. And if you're gonna just take something that works and apply it, in the cross-border payment, that's why they call it the Internet of Value, right? And if it works for internet, most likely it's going to work in cross-border payment. And for me, that's another genius stroke that they did to actually take something that is already working instead of trying to, do trial and errors and trying to figure out how to do this. They took an architecture that has already worked and applied in there, and it seemed to be doing really well. Obviously, they're building a lot of rails with a lot of other institutions and countries, and that seemed to work really well. So for me so they have an architecture that works. They have a strong team that continues to drive that change. And the other thing is it's finance. For me, I love finance applications. So payments is probably one of the most important aspects in any finance, right? Besides DeFi, which is great for Ethereum, but payments, I mean, you got to have payments regardless. And what I absolutely agree with them is, for example, people say Bitcoin will be the money for the future. Okay, or Bitcoin Cash. Someone says Bitcoin Cash. If everyone just agree on Bitcoin Cash, the real problem in the world is no one will agree on a standard, on money, right? Which currency do we all agree? And this is where their base, their base premise is that the world can never come together to agree upon a common denominator, right, for money. And that's absolutely true. And if you think that the next day someone's going to decide eventually, either Bitcoin Cash, whatever coin that's going to be the standard, that's not going to happen. And what's going to happen is there are going to be more and more of these coins, right? And the sovereignty of each country to continue on with, their yen, their US dollars, their pound, their euro, it will continue on. That's not going to change. But what is needed is an adapter, right, to link all these together to provide liquidity. And that's what XRP is there to do, right? So I guess investors, you would need to understand that, right? Understand how the history and how cultures have been evolving for years. They have never agreed, right? Countries can never agree upon a common denominator, right? I'm not sure, Scott, that you see that. I mean, we can't agree on anything, including what are we going to have for dinner. Not to mention.
But Jay, I think what you're getting at is that each country, the way that we could have it set up, they could all have their own CBDC, and then in the background, XRP would run RippleNet or the rails, and then XRP could be the cross-border bridge. Is that kind of what you're leading to?
Exactly. You need a bridge. And throughout history, there has never been a common denominator. There's always a bridge. And now, not only a bridge between currency now, if you think very carefully, what XRP is talking about is the potential is not just bridging currencies, but it's in bridging other forms of assets, right? That's really the potential. And, the talk about interoperability. And that's what, XRP is able to satisfy that view. So imagine I have a house that I'm selling here, and I want to convert it into another piece of art, right? That is a cross asset, right? That's not cross currency. This is cross asset. Now, if and which is what XRP can solve. If we can say, hey, I can, I'm gonna sell my house here into, say, Ethereum, right? And then I'm going to buy that piece of art there, which is sold in one of the NFT non-fungible token. XRP can transact that as a bridge. So we need that, right? So the reason why there's a need is because of the liquidity issues, right? Even today, why is it that XRP is more popular in countries that are like the South American or the Philippines or the Thai, is because these countries, their cross-border payments are so expensive to transfer, right? And that's because of the liquidity issues, and the currency is spread is really big. That's just how it is. So if we can help solve this problem, which is what XRP is set out to do, then the use case is just huge, right? So I'm not just seeing across currency, but cross asset as well. So that's big, yeah.
Well, Jay, to break down what you just said, the way that I understood what you just said, it sounds to me like that if you really understand what Ripple is about, and you really understand what XRP is designed for and its potential, it's a no-brainer. Would that be a safe way of saying, to sum that up?
Yeah, it is no-brainer, right? That you would need a bridge, or sometimes I use the term adapter, between cross assets, cross currency to happen. And XRP is designed specifically to do that. And that's an important thing to look at. You have a lot of other coins to say, hey, we can do that as well. But you have to understand that, say, for example, Ethereum can say, hey, we can do that as well. Yeah, but you're not designed for cross-border payments. You're not designed to do that. In other words, you have to alter the code, to actually do it, or you have to set up a different layers to do it. So it is not easy thing to do, and each coin is designed to do something specific. If there's a coin that tries to do everything, trust me, most likely you fail, because you just do not have the resources to try to eat the entire elephant. And again, back to why I say Ripple is so focused initially on cross-border payment, is because they don't want to do that really well. They want to make sure that what they design will have a use for the world, right? And the world will continue to have many countries, many sovereign countries that will still have their own currencies. The local governments, the U.S. government, the Thai government, the Australian government, they will not allow a cryptocurrency to be a standard. That's not just going to happen. So well, if you ask the question, which coin is designed to actually bridge those crosses, there isn't a lot of answer. All right, there's only a few coins out there that does this, and XRP is obviously the leader in this field. And that's how I look at it.
Well, and Jay, I appreciate that. And as we wind up here, one thing that I'd like to know from your background with the way markets trend, and I'm not going to ask you for any specific dates or any specific price predictions, because I don't give those to people because I don't know. But based on your background with the markets and the trending that you see, What's your hunch on where you see that Ripple and XRP may be going? And as we wrap up, I'd love to be able to hear your opinion on that.
Okay. Yeah. So where we are, it's obviously the early stage of the bull cycle. Obviously, XRP right now is still somewhere around 24, 25 cents. So it's still a great price, right? If you look at the all-time high, it's somewhere around $3.30, $3.50, around there. So that's the first moonshot we're talking about. That it's going to be, 10 times more expensive, which means, the 25 cents will eventually be $3.30 in moonshot one. Now, the timing wise, it's pretty hard. So we are projecting by December, but potentially it could be, after December or January. So we are seeing that to be the first layer to go up by either end of the year or beginning next year. The entire bull cycle will most likely finish either next December or early 2022. That's just how it's going to be because of the 4-year halving. The whole bull cycle cannot be 4 years. It has to be somewhere less than 4 years, and somewhere around 1.5 to less than 2 years would be a time frame. So watch out next December or early 2022. That would be the end of the bull cycle, and XRP will hit in our estimate a conservative $55 on the chart. So personally, I do think it can hit triple digit into the 100. But 55 would be fairly conservative. I guess it really depends on how strong the market is. And so don't be surprised to see XRP in the triple digit. That's what I'll say. But if you're asking, is it going to hit $1,000? I say not this cycle, but maybe next halving. So 55 and above would be a good place to sell. That's my view.
Well, I deeply appreciate that. And I will tell you this, Jay. If your prediction is right and it hits 55, I'm definitely going to be selling some of my bag of XRP.
Fantastic. I think you'll get there. So I know that there are a lot of people that hodls, and that's great. So whichever that works for you, please do take some profit off the table. I think, you'll do just fine. Yes.
All right. Well, Jay, one of the things that I also do whenever I have a friendly conversation with a new friend is I invite them to come back. And I would love to be able to continue our conversation at a later date when, some more things have happened. We get back together and kind of compare and contrast what things look like on October the 20th and whatever future date we get back together to see how things have developed.
Sounds good. Yeah. Love to have the chat. And I'm sure there are, other investors who are keen to know what's happening. In the meantime, I think everything is still happening on as planned. Nothing too crazy has changed. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting days, but kind of a bumpy road in the next couple of months, maybe. We'll see. Yeah.
That sounds fantastic. And I'll put links to you, ways to be able to get in touch with you and your website in the description of our video so people can find you. And Jay, I can't thank you enough and look forward to speaking with you again in the future, my friend.
Hey, Scott, thanks for reaching out. And, you run a good channel. And, hey, I enjoy what you're doing.
Well, I appreciate that very much. You take care and God bless.